Hey, expert students. So this video will be on about a test-taking tip. So yesterday, I took the written exam to get a driver's license because I moved from New York to Nevada. Anyway, doesn't really matter, but I had to take an exam. I had to take a test, and I'm like, all right, cool. This will actually be really good for me to experience this so that I can make a video teaching you guys how to be really effective during tests or leading into tests themselves. So definitely take out some notes or take out paper and a pen, take some notes on this. So anyway, I didn't expect that I had to be tested. And what a test is, it tests your knowledge. It tests your, sometimes there's physical tests, obviously, but academically we take tests. It's testing our knowledge base, and then we have to pass it. So I went in, they told me, oh wow, you have to take this test, and you have like X amount of minutes. I had like 30 minutes before it closed down, otherwise I would have to have come back, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. And so the woman gave me a booklet, and she's like, hey, study this, go take the test. So at first I started to get a little nervous. I'm like, what the heck? And so I started to get a little nervous, and probably that is my first point. When we get nervous, it's connected to what if scenario. So it's like, what if I fail, hence being nervous? What if I screw up? All right, so if I'm what-ifing myself, it means I'm having a negative assumption of how the future's going to go. And that's why I was nervous. And I always promote to you that if you expect to fail, you're likely to. So you can be right about that expectation. So I had to catch myself because I needed to focus and absorb the content before I went in and took this driving test. And the woman was like, just pay attention to the numbers. So she gave me some tips. I was assuming X amount of car lengths or whatever. And so what I noticed is as I was getting nervous, I wasn't able to really flip through the pages and absorb. So I had to catch myself. And instead of it being a what if I fail, it was I got this, but how can I make sure I pass? So instead of what if, it became a how can I. Two different things. So it's how can I make sure in the next 10 minutes I absorb enough information. By the way, this is not a video about how to cram successfully. I just didn't know I was going to have this test. So, obviously hands down, you'd rather prepare, well in advance. So how can I? Again, versus what if. So I'm like, all right, got it. I got this. How can I succeed? Let me focus. And then I picked the pages that I felt would be appropriate. Again, this was a packet on driving safety and pedestrians and bicycles and whatever. You get the point. So I relaxed myself, absorbed the material. I got back online because I had to enter a little room. And when I went in, there's all these little video units and stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of people. And it was interesting because I looked around and we saw different body languages. Some people were focused and calm and taking tests and click, 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 hitting buttons. Other people were like fidgeting and jittery. And that leads me to my next point is pay attention to your way of being during the test itself. And as much as possible, you got to stay relaxed. The way to do that is to tell yourself it's going to work out. I'm still on track. Don't forget, we're either going to view ourselves as on track, off track, or maybe on track. So during the exam itself, you got to constantly say, I'm on track, here's why. I'm on track, here's why. There's still time. I will still get the questions answered. Now, for me to pass this test yesterday, I had to get 80%. 50 questions, 40 correct. If you got 11 wrong, that's it. You're done. And it was interesting because as I hit the multiple choices, it said how many I had right, how many I had wrong. And I ended up getting 9 wrong. And so each one I got wrong, I started to get a little more nervous again, so I had to almost redo the exercise of you're still on track, Joe. There's still time, you're still going to do well. And I had to take some deep breaths. So again, way of being, you got to focus on it. So make sure you're relaxed, calm, collected, comfortable. There's sympathetic and parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. And so the idea, and this isn't a science video, but the idea is that when we get stressed out or anxiety goes up, it's harder for us to absorb information. It's kind of like when you get stressed out as you're trying to read because you think you're running out of study time, and then you forget what the heck. You basically are reading the page, but nothing's absorbing because your heart rate's going up and all of that, and you have to reread the whole page all over again. And so you got to make sure you're staying calm and again relaxed. You're looking to recall information from your mind. It's really important. That's not going to happen if you're under stress or you're creating stress. So, by the way, as I was taking the test, the people around me were failing left and right, because when they failed, they'd say it's over, and they'd have to go back to the front. And so a gentleman to my left, it was interesting. I saw him, basically, he was confident. He's like, yeah, I got this, click, click, click. And then as he got his first one wrong, you could totally tell he was making up his mind that he was now off track. And his expectation had shifted from I got this and I'm going to pass to I'm going to fail. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I almost wanted to like grab him and coach him and say, timeout, there's still time left and you will pass. I couldn't do that though, because I would have been kicked out of the room if I did that and whatever. But the point is, I almost wish this guy was watching this video before he took the test. And so it was all a total mind game. And he ended up failing. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Midway through, he predicted, or he prophesied that he was going to fail. His body followed suit. He got nervous. He got tensed up. He got jittery, and that was it. And it was over. So I had to, again, calm myself down as I got closer to that 10-question wrong number. By the way, I got to a question, you could skip one. And I thought about that even on tests, when you guys were taking tests. If you're looking at a question, and you make up your mind, I don't know this, you're likely to then make up your mind, I'm likely to fail. So if you need to skip it, come back to it after you go through questions that you decide you already know the answer to, and your confidence. It's momentum. So if you feel okay with skipping certain questions, coming back to them. And this could be a short answer test, fill in the blank, multiple choice. It really doesn't matter. Again, these are all tips to maintain confidence. Momentum, I'm on track. That whole opinion, just during the test itself. An example, evidence of this whole idea, pay attention when you're watching a basketball game and you actually see the coach call timeout when he starts to see his athletes go downhill, when their skills start to decrease and they start to make unforced errors. Because unconsciously, they start to make up their mind, we're likely to lose. They start to second guess. One person bounces the ball off his leg, goes out of bounds, and another thing happens where they make up their mind this other team's better than us. This happens around the third quarter quite often. And they're like, shoot, there's not much time left. And then things start to then go downhill. So the coach has to call timeout, grab the athletes and say, guys, there's still time left. We will win. And get them to change their mind from, again, being off track to being back on track. And that's why after a timeout, as long as the coach is successful at convincing the athletes there's still time left and they still will win, they still got this. They come out of the timeout, boom, hit the ground running, and get great results for themselves. So if you need to, call timeout on yourself during the actual test itself. Same thing a coach would say to you. Timeout, okay, got this. Still time left. No big deal if I don't know the answer to this particular question. I'll come back. Totally going to be fine. So you get the idea. So recreate the same thing that a coach would create with his athletes during timeout, or she would create with their athletes. Do the same thing with yourself during the actual test itself. What else? Make sure you're dressed comfortably during the test itself. This would be more like, I guess, pre-test type things. But, I made sure I rolled up my sleeves and I was comfortable, and again, it really does have to do with the way of being. You don't want any distractions. All of your focus needs to be on recalling the information. So if you're distracted by a certain noise, or you're distracted by something you're wearing, or being too hot, or whatever the case may be, it'll take you away from the test at hand. So I actually asked for headphones because I didn't want to get any noise around me. Some people were taking the test without the headphones. Again, this is what happened to me yesterday. I had the headphones on because there was an audio part of it. But even if I didn't, just the headphones alone would have allowed me to be intentional. We'll end on that note. Use these tips. Be responsible for staying calm during tests. And in that way, you'll do well. And you always perceive yourself as on track. All right? So be expert test takers during the actual exams themselves.